Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Sideline podcast, a podcast where we talk about the latest sports stories as we give our opinions as fans watching from beyond the sideline. This episode may be a little quick, maybe a bit shorter than usual. I have to do some last minute studying for a quiz. I got a quiz coming up in like the next 3 hours as we're recording this. We'll see how it goes. Knowing me, it'll probably go the usual 1 hour. um, but let's get right into it. So, first topic will be the NBA playoffs. They're well underway. A lot of teams have already played the second game of their respective series, one of which being the Los Angeles Lakers, who tied the series last night against the Timberwolves, winning 94 to 85. So that means Lakers in five is still in play, as everyone loves to say. But I didn't get to watch any of the game at all. Jake and I had an intramural basketball game,
Which
so
went great. Which went
yeah, it
great.
went great. Overtime thriller. Um, so I couldn't watch any of it because by the time I had to leave for the game, the, the Laker games had already started. So just everything that I know is based off of highlights and what I've heard around. Yeah, but what I heard is that the Lakers had a pretty noticeable lead. I think they led by as many as 19 as one point, but late in the quarter, midway through the fourth, the Timberwolves started to back, but Lakers made a stand. Anthony Edwards tried to get into everyone's head, especially Luca, but Luca dropped a near triple double. So, Jake, I want to get your thoughts on that series so far as it's panning out.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely that was a must-win game for the Lakers. I think going into the series, I was really excited. I feel like these are two pretty evenly matched teams,
Yeah,
and I would not be surprised personally if this one goes seven. I think it really is just going to be a total battle all the way. I think this was a really encouraging one if you're a Lakers fan because that first game was pretty brutal, and you start thinking, like maybe the defense just isn't enough, and maybe it's JJ Redick's first ever playoff series. Like he's going to get out coached out there, but turned it around and had a really solid. Everyone had a really solid performance last night, so I think that's really important for me. And another part of it was that the Timberwolves shot 50% from three in game one. They were 21 of 42. So you can kind of, if you're a Laker fan, you can kind of say, all right, as long as they don't go crazy from three, we played much better defense, kind of played our game. And yeah, I mean, the story with the whole playoffs, honestly, is just going to be can anyone long term shut down Luka and LeBron and that offense, which is just going to be really exciting. I think the the thing that excites me most about the Lakers is just that passing, because you have two elite passers and LeBron and Luka kind of leading the charge, and then enough role players to make some exciting things happen. And in that game one, you didn't see as much of that. It was a lot of ISO ball. They wanted to try and exploit Rudy Gobert and Luka, but it was a really stagnant Laker offense. And I think we saw much more of the game that the Lakers want to play as opposed to the Timberwolves, where they were passing the ball around, they were rotating very well, and I think that bodes well for the future of the series for the Lakers. But really exciting stuff. I think it's just some high level basketball.
yeah. I This is definitely one of the better series to watch in my opinion. I don't think it's the best series. I'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, it's gonna be really competitive. It's gonna be interesting to see how JJ Redick handles the Minnesota atmosphere now that they're gonna be going to
Mm-hmm.
Target Center in Minnesota to play the Timberwolves at their home court for the next two games for game three and four. It Even last year it showed Minnesota is a tough team to play at their home court. Their fans
Mm-hmm.
always show out. They're always loud. Anthony Edwards always gets the crowd hyped.
Yeah.
But this is obviously a different team than last season. Last season they had Carl Anthony Towns. This year they don't. They have Julius Randle now and Dante DiVincenzo, who can add a little bit of extra, I guess, playmaking ability that Carl Anthony Towns didn't have. He was really limited to the paint. Sure, he was a stretch big, but Julius Randle is a bit more of a playmaker. Dante DiVincenzo can get you the three ball. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the game 3 and game 4 goes. As I mentioned, JJ Redick, he's coached at Target Center before, obviously, but not in a playoff setting. Game 1 was definitely like I feel like that was his welcome to the playoffs moment. Wasn't
Yeah.
ready for what the Timberwolves were going to bring out. Chris Finch is a great head coach, possible coach of the year candidate every year in my opinion. But obviously, people are going to disagree with me on that. That's kind of a hot take, but I digress. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Pistons versus Knicks series. The
Mhm.
Pistons went and did what they needed to do in New York and take one game. They tied the series in game 2, going back to Detroit. In my opinion, I've been saying Pistons in 6. I, I
Wow. Okay.
I've been they swept the season series against the Knicks. I think if you take one game in New York, you set yourself up for a a series win in 6 because I think you can win both at home. I think you'll probably lose game 5 in New York and then you win it at home in game 6. Or they split it, tie the game going to New York, and then the Pistons might go down 3-2, but then they win the next two. So it's
Okay.
Pistons in
Okay.
6, Pistons in 7. It's one of those
That's
two in my
interesting.
opinion.
I
I
have
want
the Knicks. I have the Knicks coming out of
okay,
this series. I think they're the better team. I think they're the better
okay,
team. I think and that starting five is just awesome. And obviously, Todd Smudo loves to just run his starters out there like crazy. I think the talent of the Knicks is going to end up over a 7 game series. Um, just outplaying, outplaying the Pistons, especially a young Pistons team. And it's funny because a lot of times, some of these like surprise teams that are young and not quite, they're supposed to be a year or two away in the rebuild, and it kind of just happens for them. I mean, a really great year for them, an awesome story. But when they get to the playoffs, it's different, and the young guys just, it's a totally different atmosphere. And it's funny because Tobias Harris is one of the few guys on the Pistons who doesn't fall into that. These young guys who just had a much better season than expected. He's one of the few vets on this roster, and he's actually been really great over the first couple of games of the series. So I think that's definitely an X factor for them. If he can kind of keep holding it down and putting up like 20 points a game. I mean, he had 15 and 13 yesterday. He had, I think, over 20 points in game 1, even though they lost. That's definitely an X factor. That's where I get a little scared if you're a Knicks fan. But I still think I trust these Knicks. I think they can get one in Detroit. I do. And then I think they can take care of business at home the rest of the way to win. I'd have the Knicks in 6 or 7. Um, but I think it is going to be a really good series. I think they're pretty evenly matched. I do. I just think, you know, they're going to have to. I think some of the rotations for the Knicks are a little strange because they have, so many. They play their starters for so many minutes. I mean, all of them are about, 40 minutes a game. But there are times like there's just a full bench unit on there where it's like it's 4 bench guys and then 1 starter. So like I think the rotations could definitely like be a little better because they are not great in those minutes where it's heavy bench minutes. So you could go 3 starters, 2 bench guys throughout the game, or it makes a match a little bit more. But I, I think they're the better team, and I'd have the Knicks in like 6. Um, I just think Jalen Brunson is so awesome to watch in the playoffs. He's such an absolute beast, and he can kind of put the team on his back a little bit and make things happen.
yeah. I'm not trying to downplay the Knicks in any way, shape, or form. I've been labeled as a Knicks hater among the KCSV group. I'm not hating on the Knicks. I'm not trying to. I just really think this Pistons team can do it.
Okay.
I think the Knicks are top to bottom a better team, but I think the Pistons just have a little more grit to them. And that just
Okay.
comes from playing in Detroit. I mean, you play for the Pistons franchise, you're just gonna accumulate this like grit over time. Same thing with playing in Memphis. Memphis with Zach Randolph and Mike Conley developed that grit and grind
Hmm.
kind of atmosphere and era, and I think it translated into the Pistons now with
Yeah.
Cade
All right.
Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart. All of those guys, I think, have what it takes. They have that bite to them, for lack of better
Okay.
terms. I
I think they're another year away from winning a playoff series or two. That's just how I feel
okay,
about it. But I understand what you're saying. I do. I mean, they do have some really exciting talent. And again, like those older guys, like Tobias Harris was 15, Dennis Schroeder at 20 off the bench last night. Like I don't know if they can continue to replicate that throughout the rest of the series.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it can easily be Nixon 5. Like that one Pistons win could be a fluke. I'm not saying that Knicks can't win this series. I just think Pistons really do have what it takes to beat the Knicks. They're most likely they no, they are gonna lose in 5 games or less against the Celtics because we know
Yeah.
they're winning against the Magic. But I really do think Pistons have what it takes to win the series this year.
Mhm. That's fair. Yeah, I to your point, I don't think I have a lot of faith in either of these teams. Whoever, even if it's the
Yeah.
Knicks who comes out, I think again, kind of both of these teams have been really bad against the top tier East teams, and they've taken care of business against worse teams in the league. So I think either of them. I mean, it could be a pretty ugly second round series.
Yeah, this is definitely my series to watch out of the East. I think this is
Mhm.
the most competitive uh series in the East. The only other one next to it could be Pacers Bucks. Pacers are up 2-0 right now, but I don't know, it just seems like Pacers Bucks, yeah, it can get competitive, but I don't know. It's just it's not I don't know. I don't have fun. I don't enjoy watching the Pacers or the Bucks play as like if you would have told me in like 2021, yeah, I'll go watch a Bucks series. I'll go watch a young Pacers team, but now it just seems like very average.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think yeah, the East is definitely lesser, I think. Like right
Oh yeah.
besides that 4-5 matchup, like or besides the Knicks Pistons, like and the Pacers have really looked sharp
Oh
against the
yeah.
Bucks so far, and it just feels like the Bucks are very much just a team that is trending downward over the last couple of years, and you can kind of you're watching it right in front of your own eyes. And obviously, Dame's been hurt; he came back, had a kind of a rough game, but it was a pretty serious injury. So I just don't think he can turn it on and be classic vintage Dame. Like, and Giannis just he kind of needs it because right now Giannis desperately needs help, and I just don't think he's going to get it. So I don't have a lot of faith in this Bucks team. And again, it feels a little like anticlimactic too because to me, it's so obvious a Celtics Cavs Eastern Conference Finals. Like they just feel so much better than every other team
Yeah.
that it's hard for me to get excited about some of these other series because it's like, all right, well, how are they going to do in round two?
No, yeah, it's definitely a lot different than like a March Madness because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this year obviously the 1 and 2 seeds were like they were legit. Everyone knew it
Mm-hmm.
was going to be a lot of top 2, maybe even top 3 seeds in the Elite 8, the Final Four. I mean, it was a 1-to-1 matchup in championship game. But in the first few rounds up until the Sweet 16, you can predict an upset. You
Yeah,
like some of these smaller schools that run fast, get threes up, these fast breaks, they steal the ball well against a slower, more seasoned team, maybe like St. John's. I mean, look at Arkansas.
yeah,
Arkansas is a
absolutely.
fast team. St. John's likes to set things up. Rick Pitino is a slower, more fundamentally styled coach. But
Yeah,
in the NBA, I mean the top 1 or 2 teams are it's destined that they are going to the conference championship.
yeah, definitely in the East. It just feels it's a totally different kind of play. They're on a different level, those two teams, than everyone else. This year in particular, there are
Oh yeah.
there are certainly some NBA years where it's up in the air. And obviously in the West, I think it's totally up in the air, and it's super exciting. Like all of those, besides the Thunder series, I think all of the series are really fun to watch. But it's just it's tough because you're just not there's just not a lot of confidence in any team that's at the top two in the East. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking about the West, I want to talk about what I think is the best series to watch coming out of the West. That's Clippers versus Nuggets. I think these
Mm-hmm.
are the two most competitive teams in the league right now going up against each other. They were fighting for a top five, top four seed going into the final day of play. Clippers had the potential to be a four seed if everything went well for them. Ended up being a five seed, so Denver has home court advantage in the series. Clippers lost in overtime against the Nuggets in Denver in game one, which they had the chance to win. I believe they were up late in the game, but Jamal Murray. What are you gonna do? It's every LA team's kryptonite can be linked to Jamal Murray. It's not just the Lakers anymore. I think Jamal Murray is just the new mayor of Los Angeles. Um, but the Clippers did take game two, went down to the wire. Jokic almost made his infamous, I call it the flop shot. The dude just heaves and it somehow goes
He's
in.
better, so good at that somehow. It's crazy.
I hate it. I hate it. As a Lakers fan, having to endure that for 2 straight years, I didn't like it. but
Yeah, yeah,
but although this is my best series to watch out of the West, I think it's the most up in the air because either of these two teams can win. I
yeah.
think more
No,
so than Pistons Knicks. I think you can make a clear argument for why either team can win. I think this one you really can't because anything is possible with these two teams making it out.
yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think, and they've given us two spectacular games so far. Obviously, you had the OT thriller. Amazing how the Nuggets were able to hold on to that. Some ridiculous Russell Westbrook play. It was so only Russell Westbrook could have done what he did at the end of game one. He was making the best plays you'll ever see, followed up with the worst plays you'll ever see. Just vintage Russ. And then game two, again, just fantastic game. Comes down to the wire again. And I don't see why every single game is not going to be pretty close to this, where it's going to be just tight knit action. This one should go seven, honestly, this series. I'd be surprised if it didn't go seven, at the very least six, because these two teams really are so evenly matched. And just also kind of like firing at the right time. I mean, I know that we talked a lot about the Nuggets, how they fired their head coach, and maybe they were giving up, but they've looked really good since then. They really have. Got to give them a lot of credit. Obviously, the Clippers were probably the hottest team in basketball to end the year over the last 2 weeks or so. And feels like it's coming together at the right time between Kawhi and how good Harden's been. And then, I mean, the Nuggets really are just an exciting team to watch. They have the best player in the world on their team, which is always fun. I think the game last night was one of Jokic's worst games.
Yeah.
It was not, I mean, again, and that just goes to show, he has 26, 11, and 10, and it's 50% from the field. And that's genuinely in the playoffs in a long time. That goes to show how good he is. But really, it wasn't enough. And I think a more vintage Jokic game, and that's a Denver Nugget win. But I mean, we have to talk about Kawhi Leonard and what he did last night. 39 points on 19 shots is ridiculous. I mean, he was unreal. 15 to 19 from the floor. He could not be stopped. And again, like the defense is so incredible too. Like if you get a legitimately healthy Kawhi for these playoffs, like that totally changes the ceiling of this Clippers team. Like I think either one of these teams could go and beat the Thunder next round, but I think I like the Clippers doing that more. I think this really is a toss-up, whoever wins this series. But if the Clippers get to the next round, I think they have a better shot against the Thunder than the Nuggets.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask you that as a follow up. Who would fare better against the Thunder? And I agree with you. I think defensively, in terms of matchups, I think the Clippers fare better. I think the
Yeah.
Nuggets are just too slow. They have too many bigs. I mean, look at their starting, or not even their starting lineup, but their main lineup, I should say. You have Jamal Murray, who's what, 6'4", 6'3", Christian Brown, who's about 6'5", Michael Porter Jr., who's 6'8", 6'9", Aaron Gordon, who's 6'9", Jokic, who's 6'10", 6'11". I mean, they're just really tall and really, and they're not even really agile. Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon and
Hmm.
Nikola Jokic aren't agile at all. They can't really cut
Yeah.
like a Kawhi or a Harden, Norman Powell, even Chris Dunn. But
Yeah.
obviously they have their guys coming off the bench like Russ, but the main lineup that they love to close with, the one I just mentioned, I don't think can fare well in a do or die scenario with like under 5 minutes against the Thunder when it comes down to it. I think defensively they're going to just have a breakdown, unlike
Yeah.
the Clippers.
Yeah, exactly. And because if you have a Kawhi kind of guy who can do so much, if you have a James Harden, such a play, such a playmaker, like there's a lot. I think Norman Powell as well. He got really hot at the end of the game, started off ice cold, and then he really turned it on and was a difference maker in the second half last night. Like they have a lot of guys down there. They have a lot of guys down there, and yeah, I think a healthy Kawhi raises the ceiling for the Clippers to, and like you cannot understate what that does for that team. If he's playing, anything like he does, like he can play like he did last night. So I'd be pretty excited.
All right, now the last thing I wanted to talk about is the Thunder series. You mentioned it a little bit there, but the Thunder so far have been wiping the floor with the
Yeah,
Grizzlies in the first two games. They obviously are going to Memphis now, bit hostile territory, but the Thunder is still going to be the Thunder. But off of
yeah.
these two games alone, with them being so young and having playoff experience from last year, do you think that they are legit contenders to make it out of the West?
I think so. I mean, I think it's hard to look at them and say no, just because they won 68 games this year, and top to bottom, they have. I think they have the most talented team, the most depth in the league for sure. So again, it really does come down to like that experience and can you do it in the playoffs? And they're still a really young team. I know they got into the playoffs last year. They are still a really young team, but I I think having a series against the Grizzlies like this, where like they could rest all of their starters basically and still sweep or win in five, like is going to be an advantage for next round if they have to play a Clippers or a Nuggets who like have given it their all over 7 games. Like that's a huge advantage for the Thunder. Obviously, they're going to have home court advantage throughout as well, which is also big. So I think I do like their odds getting to at the very least the Western Conference Finals. I do just because like matchup wise. Um, and then it's going to be then they're going to have to turn it on. But I think you can't. I can't look at a team that won 68 games and say they're not legitimate contenders. I can't do it. They've proven it a lot. And I mean, certainly, I know the Grizzlies aren't necessarily a formidable team, but God, have they just destroyed them so far? They've looked so impressive. So Shea had a pretty awful game last night. He goes 10 of 29, just 27 points on 29 shots, and it doesn't even matter. Like he could have gone 1 for 29. It wouldn't have mattered. So I think the depth on this team makes them a legit contender. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw a stat. I forgot what the exact numbers were, but I think if you reverse the outcome of all of the Thunder's wins in single digits, or it might have been under 5 points, they would still have 58 wins, which would still make them the one seed.
Yeah.
So they have been blowing out a lot of
Yeah.
their,
But they have
almost
the
all of
best
their
point
opponents.
differential ever, right? They have
Yeah,
the
I
best
believe.
point
Yeah, I believe
differential, I
so.
think, in NBA history.
And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
insane.
so I think they have the hardest road to the finals in both the West and the East. I I mean,
Mhm.
coming out of this Grizzly series, obviously it's probably the easiest series there is. But then you have to face either a Clippers team or a Nuggets team. The Clippers who are red hot, or do you want a Nuggets team who's battled against this hot
Mhm.
Clippers team? And then you're playing either the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Rockets, or the Warriors. The Rockets, I think, fare the best against the Thunder in terms of matchups.
Interesting. Okay.
The Lakers have proven they can win at OKC. This their last game of the season against OKC, their
Right.
second to last game of the season. I think they should have won. I'm not trying to be biased, but they're bad officiating. We're not going to go there. Um, the Warriors, they still have Stephen Curry. You can never rule that man out. And
Yeah.
then the
And
Timberwolves.
playoff Jimmy is looking
Oh
really
yeah,
good too over
playoff
there.
Jimmy is insane.
Yeah.
And then you have the Timberwolves, who are young, they're hungry. They lost against the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals, so Anthony Edwards is looking to get back there.
Oh yeah.
So if he does, he's going to put up at least 30 to 35 a game. So I think the Thunder have it hard if they
Yeah.
want
I
to
mean,
get
it's
to the
just,
place.
and I think it's just where the West is. Like, I think anyone in the West is going to just, the West is going to be such a more difficult path because there's so many more teams that you can believe in. Like, again, you just talked through it. You could legitimately see 7 teams out of the West, right, making the finals and going like, yeah, I mean, they were a really good team. They have a really good shot against whoever they're going up against in the finals. Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane to say that. Where like, there's two maybe in the East that you could say that about. I think so. I mean, it's gonna be tough for any team in the West, and that certainly doesn't rule out OKC. So I think it's yeah, it's not going to be easy, but I think it's going to make for some awesome playoff basketball in that conference.
Yeah. And I mean, to touch off of that, who do you think is coming out of the East? I know it's between the Cavs and the Celtics, but for me,
Uh,
I have the Celtics.
yeah, I hate to go chalk, but I do agree. I think as awesome as the Cavs have been this year, I just like come playoff time, I trust the Celtics. Obviously, they were there last year, and I feel like they're another team where like right, Jason Tatum can like have an awful game or rest, and like in the first couple rounds, like I'm not concerned about it at all. Like they should still win games. So when your best players don't have to have amazing nights every single time, and you can still feel good about going out there and getting a win. It's just such a huge advantage, right? That's what the Rockets, that's what the Thunder can do, and that's where like a team like the Timberwolves, like Ant kind of needs to go crazy and do 30 to 35 a night. And if he has a bad day, it's not like you don't like their odds. So I think just the ability to have that depth is such a huge advantage, and I think the Celtics have that more than certainly anyone else in the East. So they're my pick.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think top to bottom, the Celtics still are the better team. I think the Cavs
Yeah.
won the season series, or they may have split, but yeah, I like the Celtics, and the Celtics do now have sixth man of the year in Peyton Pritchard, who can
Mhm.
easily get you 15 to 20 points a game if he so chooses.
Yeah. No, he's been awesome.
All right. Well, we talked about the NBA a lot.
Yeah.
Let's switch things up a little bit now. Go to a different sport. Let's go to the diamond. Let's talk a little bit about the MLB. There's a couple things I want to point on. One of them being the Dodgers. They lost yet again to the Chicago Cubs, 11-10, just last night, I believe. The one question I have is, are the Cubs the Dodgers' kryptonite, or is it way too early to tell?
I mean, it feels like they have played each other every single game this season. Like,
Yeah,
geez, this is the third series they've played against each other already because they started out in Japan with two. They just played another two. They had another 3 game series in the middle of it where the Cubs took 2 out of 3. So it's pretty ridiculous. Like I want to talk to the scheduling committee about that. It's crazy, but no, I mean, I think this Cubs team is legit. Like I think in a very weak National League Central, there's no reason why they cannot come out of that division and make some noise. And right, as good as the Dodgers are, and they are quite incredible. Since that since that Japan series where they swept, they're what 1-3 against the Cubs in the last four. So good for the Cubs, and I think it's just kind of clicking for them. I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong has the has that opportunity to be an MVP candidate. Like he's
Yeah.
that good. He's the best defensive center fielder in baseball, probably. And then he's been awesome with the bat so far. He's like a 130 OPS plus guy. Like if you could be significantly over major league average bat and the most valuable defender in the game, playing a premium position like center field, like he's going to rack up WAR. He is so good for this Cubs team. It's just a matter of can the pitching hold up long term? They just lost Justin Steele, obviously their ace for the year. I don't know if it's Tommy John, but it's something like that. So I'm definitely long term. They're going to have to make some moves, but I like this Cubs team a lot. And yeah, I mean, why not? Why aren't they the Dodgers kryptonite? I like it. Let's see what they do today.
Yeah, you mentioned PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong. I think he is definitely the player to watch. I think he's, what Bobby Witt Jr. was last year. Bobby Witt Jr. had a really great year last year, and the year before that. I don't think he's on the level of Bobby Witt, but I think just that kind of heart that he brings to the game and to his team, and just the
Mm-hmm.
overall playing ability. Um, yeah, I think Pete Crow Armstrong is definitely going to be up there and one of the players to watch when it comes for the awards to come out.
Yeah.
The Angels on the other side of the freeway in Los Angeles a few days ago beat the Giants in their first series against them. The Giants, one of the best teams in baseball. So it was a little shocking to see, even as an Angels fan, to see us take down a top team. But do you think it's a bit of a fluke, or are the Angels actually competing?
I think I think unfortunately my gut for the Angels this year is they keep making some exciting noise throughout April and maybe May, and then it'll fall apart a little bit. And I hate to say that, but that's kind of what's happened. Oh, what? How many years in a row now? 10 maybe?
Yeah, just about.
That said, they're doing this with a really, really weird year for Mike Trout so far. He's got 8 home runs, 16 RBIs, 500 slugging, but he's batting 177 and striking out 50% of the time. So if Trout can figure it out a little bit, they have enough else that really, really excites you from a lineup perspective. Again, Nolan Shanuel's awesome. O'Hoppy's been great behind the dish. Some of these, veteran guys like Jorge Soler has been pretty fun for them. So I think they really do have an opportunity to be one of the more fun and effective lineups in baseball throughout the year. But their pitching, I don't think, has that ability at all. Tyler Anderson's gotten off to an awesome start. Kikuchi's gotten off to a good start. I just don't really trust anyone on that staff. And I think it will catch up to them in the long term, kind of like it has. So, maybe they make a couple moves in June, July, and make a couple of the right moves, get some pitchers that will fire it up for them, and they could sneak into the wild card. That's still within the range of possibilities for them. But yeah, I think it might be a little fluky for the Angels at this point in the season.
Yeah, and I asked that question because literally last night they lost to one of the worst teams in the league in the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you are on a really high and then really low lows. That's the story of my life as an Angels fan.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sucks, but at least I'm not a White Sox fan. That's
it could be worse.
it could be worse,
Definitely.
or an A's fan. It could be
Oof.
a lot worse. I
Yeah,
just hate being in this limbo.
yeah.
'Cause
I mean, and that's where you guys have been for so long. I mean,
yeah,
and it feels like the best thing for the team for a while now has been to blow it all up, but they refuse. It feels like these good starts that they get off to makes them go for it at the deadline and ship away some of their minor league talent, bring in old veterans, and then it falls apart in the second half of the year, and you've just set yourself back. And every year they're falling for it. So as much as it's fun in the moment, I just don't think it's smart from an organizational perspective.
Yeah, and I mentioned that last episode, I believe, when I talked about my little Angels seasonal cycle graph that I made.
Yep.
Yeah, the Angels start off hot in April, May, maybe early June, and then they just fall off of a cliff. When the trade deadline happens, like you said, they move a lot of their top prospects and their minor league talent to other teams who then they
Mm,
develop into decent players
yeah.
for win now older veterans. It doesn't work out for them, and then you're back at square one. You lose all those guys you just traded for. You lose some of the guys that you already have on your team. You're still with Mike Trout. You still have Taylor Ward. You have some of your top pieces, and then you're just rebuilding the team around them for the fourth straight year.
Yep.
I mean, what do
Exactly.
you do?
Not great. Not a great place to be in.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that guy, but I attribute it to the ownership. I think Art Moreno needs to sell the team. I am one of those fans. We all came together for the A's last season for the reverse boycott. I think we need to do the same for the Angels. I think
I'd
they
be
are.
okay with that.
I think they are in dire need new ownership. And Art Moreno gave the biggest pump fake. I believe it was this past off season, or maybe it was the season before that. He said there were reports saying that he was going to sell the team and he was looking for buyers. Reports were saying Mark Cuban could be interested. I don't think that report was true, but I think the reports are true that he was looking for a buyer. And then a week after that report came out, he made a written statement himself saying, "I'm not selling this team anytime soon." So
That hurts. That
yeah,
hurts.
it was the biggest pump fake I think I've ever experienced as a sports fan.
Ouch.
Um, but yeah, it was not a fun time. But enough about my Angels. Let's talk about your Yankees. They seem to be up and down, but a bit more on the upside. If I'm
Yeah,
correct.
you are correct. I think they had a cuff. This today marks the end of a 13 games in 13-day
Ooh,
stretch, and they've just the bullpen has been exhausted. I mean, they're not getting a lot of length from their starters, and as a result, the bullpen's been totally taxed, and that has hurt them these first couple games in Cleveland, where they're playing right now. But they're up 5-1 in the ninth right now, so it looks like they will go to 15-10, which would be, I think, the best record in the American League. So you can't really complain. It's not like everything's been peachy keen for these Yankees so far, but can't complain sitting in first place right now. Can't complain at all. And I think, Aaron Judge is the best hitter I've ever seen. I know I've only been around for about 21 years, but he's absolutely the best hitter I've ever watched. And I think you can start making the case that he is the best right-handed hitter in the history of Major League Baseball. I think another year of what he's doing, and you can legitimately start to make that case right now. I mean, and this doesn't take into account today, where he's 2 for 2 with a walk and a triple, but he's got 2 WAR so far in 22 games, which leads the majors. He's slashing 411, 508, 722. That's a 254 OPS plus, 150% better than the average major leaguer. And he's a fabulous defender in right field too, now that he's back in his position. So when you have a guy like that anchoring the line, it is just like, he is must-see TV, that guy. I can't say enough about him. But Ben Rice has been like the second best hitter in baseball, or at least in the American League so far. He's been incredible behind, hitting right in front of Judge. That certainly helps to have that kind of protection. And then Dominguez has been promising from the left-hand side. Grisham, Goldschmidt's been awesome. Like, there's a lot to get excited about in this lineup, and not everybody's going. There's definitely a few people who are off to a slow start, but enough are going that it's been a really fun lineup to watch. It's just, it's going to come down to the starting pitching. Max Fried's been electric so far, one of the best pitchers in baseball in the month of April. Rodon's been a lot better the last couple of starts. If those two can hold down the top of the rotation, and then Clark Schmidt just came back, he can be your three guy. You can win a lot of regular season games like that. And then the bullpen looks like it's going to be the best bullpen in Major League Baseball. Devin Williams has been awful so far. Can't imagine that the best closer in baseball is going to continue to be awful. But besides him, everybody in that bullpen's been great. So super excited about my Yankees. Definitely a lot that they can improve on, but they're playing like the best team in the American League, and right now they are. So that's what I got for you.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pitching staff. I mean, if only Garrett Cole were there, how much better would
If
they
Garrett
be?
Cole, I think they are basically tied to be a World Series favorite with the Dodgers if Cole is in there and the lineup's hitting like this. Like with a lineup like this, if you had the two best pitchers in the American League, because Max Fried's been that so far, you had two of those guys to start. Like, it's so upsetting that he's not there because they would really. They're still the favorites to come out of the American League, even without Cole. So with Cole, I can't imagine the ceiling of this team, but still promising. Still promising.
All right, well, let's stick with the diamond, but let's move over to college now. We're gonna stick with one conference, one team, the UC Santa Barbara Gauchos. We'll probably talk about this on the radio today, so why not do a bit of a warm up? The Gauchos had a huge series win against their rivals, the Cal Poly Mustangs from San Luis Obispo. They beat them 2-1 in the series, losing the home opener in 11 innings, which was a heartbreak. They were down 3-1, ended up coming back in the 8th inning, tie the game, and in the 11th they lost, I believe, on a bloop play. Like, I think it was like a bloop
I think so.
single, and the runner came home. Really bad way to lose, but they ended up, coming right back. The second game was amazing. Calvin Prosky was on the mound through a pretty great game. And in the first game, Tyler Bremner, one of the best pitching prospects going into this year's draft, did fairly well. But I think the game that stood out to me the most was that last game. Jackson Flora, who's projected to be
Yeah.
one of the, I think, a top 10 pitching prospect going into next year's draft, through a complete game shutout with only one hit allowed. That is a master class of a game for
Yeah.
Jackson Flora.
Against one of the best offenses in baseball in Cal
Yeah.
Poly. I mean, genuinely, up and down that lineup are so many guys you're afraid of. And he just completely shut them down. And that's what we've said kind of all season long is that even when playing this elite competition that they're going to have to face in the top of the Big West, in the Big West tournament, in hopefully in the NCAA tournament in the future, no matter who they're playing, you know that your 1, 2, and 3 starters are going to be better than the other team's 1, 2, and 3 starters, no matter what. And that's what we saw this weekend. I will say, Tyler Bremner's had such a weird year so far. Again, he does it again, where he looks absolutely incredible, goes 7 innings, only allows 6 hits with 13 strikeouts. Unbelievable. 1 walk, but all the hits came clumped together and he gives up 3 runs. So I'm still like, if I'm an MLB scout, I'm just as excited about him as I was. Like, this stuff's still electric. He's putting up the big strikeout numbers. He's going deep into games, but you just have to figure that hitting coming in clumps. He's definitely struggled with guys on base. But I mean, Jackson Flora now, I think we read it last episode, but I'm going to do it again. His last 4 starts, 6 innings pitched, 1 run, 7 innings pitched, 0 runs, 7 innings pitched, 1 run, now 9 and 0. I mean, if that's not a stretch of a lifetime, oh my goodness. And the Gauchos we're sitting 86th in RPI and the RPI rankings coming into the weekend.
Yep.
They jump up to 63 because of that series win. That goes to show a lot. They go from, I know you were mentioning how they were on the bubble in a lot. They were kind of like the next 4 out in a lot of the bracketology stuff. Now they're the last 4 in. So that's really exciting. I mean, just a huge bump. And I don't see why you can't carry this kind of momentum over. They beat Cal Baptist on Monday.
Yep.
They have a big series against UC San Diego this weekend, but like I think they're raring to go. They've won 9 out of their last 11 games. Like everything's coming together at the right time for these Gauchos.
Yeah, you mentioned RPI. I was just about to mention that. They're 63rd, up from 85th. They are projected to be a last four in team now. From what I've seen, they are projected to be a third seed in the Tucson Regional, where they will face the number one seed Arizona, number one seed in that respective regional. Number two UCLA, UCSB would be three, and Grand Canyon would be fourth. So a pretty tough regional, if you ask me,
Yeah,
especially being away.
yeah,
But another thing I want to take note of is that there is a very good possibility of four Big West teams being in the tournament. Hawaii being the outlier. Their RPI currently is 56, yet they're projected to be a next four out team, even though UCSB is a last four in with a lower RPI. So it's interesting to see how people are projecting the committee to choose who's going to be in and who's going to be out. But what we know
yeah,
for certain is that UC Irvine and Cal Poly will be in the field of
yeah.
64 with a likely possibility of Irvine hosting their own region.
Yeah, right now, I think in that bracket, they are projected to be the 12th overall seed. So just really incredible stuff from UCI. But I wonder, you know, now that there is a Big West tournament, playoff for the Big West, first time ever for baseball, the Gauchos are going to have an opportunity to really climb these rankings. They don't
Yeah,
play any elite competition. They don't play any of those three teams, Hawaii, Irvine, or Cal Poly, the rest of the season. But they're going to face them in the tournament, in the Big West tournament. So if they can put up a couple more surprise wins, hopefully they can play themselves out of being a 3 seed in a tough regional. Like hopefully they can get to that 2 line instead, which would be big. I don't know. You think there's a world in which if they continue to crush it and they end the season, 10-1 in their last 11 games, and then take the Big West tournament, do they have a shot to host, or maybe not? Is it too late?
well, in order to host, you have to be a top 16 seed, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't think the Gauchos have what it takes to be in the top 16. I think they can break into the top 25, though. I think
yeah,
they have the chance if they end on a very good run. They have the chance to be a two seed in a regional, maybe the
yeah.
Irvine regional. That would be awesome because then
That'd be cool.
they're in a familiar area. They don't have to travel far. It's only about what, maybe an hour and a half away.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, not too far of a drive for them. But yeah, I think they can break into the top 25. I don't think we'll host a regional this year.
Mhm.
Speaking of hosting regionals, Cal Poly was projected to host one, but the Gauchos upset their
Not anymore.
chances.
I love it.
Now Cal Poly is actually projected to be the two seed in the Chapel Hill regional hosted by North Carolina. So that would be very
Interesting.
tough for them because they have to
Go
go
all the
all
way
the way
across
from
the country.
California to North Carolina.
Wow.
That would be
Wow.
tough.
What an awesome series win for these Gauchos to not only get themselves into the projected bracket, but kick Cal Poly all the way up to UNC. Gotta love it. Love the blue
Yeah,
green rivalry.
yeah.
Love hating on Cal Poly. That's a lot of fun for me.
You gotta love the Cal Poly hate. um, but with that, we'll move into our last topic of this episode. Tomorrow, Thursday, April 24th, marks the start of the NFL draft for the upcoming 2025 season. It the obviously for those who don't know, but I'm assuming you do know, but for those who don't, it is a 3-day draft. Thursday being round one, Friday being rounds 2 through 3, and Saturday being rounds 4, 7. So my first question is, who do you think is going to go first overall in this year's draft tomorrow?
I think the first overall is right now, crystal clear, it's Cam Ward. I don't know if you saw, he was streaming Fortnite or something the other night, and he was asked what his top four wide receivers in the NFL are. Number one was Calvin Ridley, and number four was Traylon Burks. So I think he knows he's going to be a Tennessee Titan. I
Yeah.
think he knows. So that, I mean, and like the odds are like minus 20,000 or something
Oh
that he
yeah.
gets taken first overall now. It's crazy. I personally, I don't think he should be a number one overall pick. I think it's a bit of a reach.
Okay.
I understand that the Titans need a quarterback. I just don't think he's a caliber of a prospect that deserves number one overall. I think he's close to that, but we got a little spoiled last year with Williams and May and Jaden Daniels. But yeah, like last year, he would have been the fourth best quarterback prospect. I think he would have been above Bo Nix, above Penix, but I don't think he would have been above any of those top three. So it's just hard for me to get excited, take him number one overall, when I think the two best players in the draft are without a doubt for me, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. But yeah, so I think number one overall, it's got to be Cam Ward.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Caleb Williams. I know this draft has been already asked already, but I didn't like the Bears taking Caleb Williams. With all the offseason moves that the Bears made last season, I think that they should have kept Justin Fields, as it felt like, because Justin Fields ended the year really well. Like he had a great season
Yeah,
for what it's worth and the team that he had. And then they went and got Keenan Allen. They got some more weapons for him. They developed the offensive line. I think that they set up the team for Justin Fields to succeed, but I think there's in the draft today, there's so much peer pressure to
yeah,
take the guy who's been scouted as the number one. All the reporters are saying he's number one. The analytics are saying, "Oh,
yeah,
you're taking him number one," and that
yeah,
that goes with Cam Ward. Everyone is saying he is the definitive number one pick. The Titans do need a quarterback, but I don't feel like teams should be peer pressured into taking the guy reporters are saying, because look
yep,
at what happened to the Bears.
exactly. Yeah, and I think
They traded away Justin Fields and they had Caleb Williams. They didn't do good.
Yep. And I hope my Giants are listening to this conversation because there was a lot of talk, not as much of late in the last couple of weeks, but certainly in the beginning of the offseason, that Shador Sanders at number three overall is a New York Giant. And talk about peer pressure, a team that needs a quarterback getting pressure to take a quarterback way too high. Like, there's the example. So I am hoping that the Giants do not do that. I think at this point it's trending in the right direction. I think after they went out and got Russ and Jameis, there's definitely less of a likelihood that they do that. But the peer pressure is high for that. But yeah, I think like just to your like I think a Jackson Dart and a Jalen Milroe, like they could both go in the first round, which would again be huge reaches. But like that's where we are in the NFL right now, where quarterbacks are so important that like you could see a team jumping back into the first round to go and grab those guys, even though they're like second or third round prospects. If position was neutral.
Yeah, and I also think in the draft you need to, kind of listen to everyone's opinion. I want to mention the Giants as they were on HBO's Hard Knocks
Yeah,
for, I think it was not this past season, but the season before. Um, I remember seeing a clip that went viral that the Giants GM's son came into the draft room or like the day before the draft started, or the yeah, it was the day
yeah,
before the draft
yeah.
started, and he said,
He was in his office. Yeah,
yeah, his son told him draft Jaden Daniels, and he
yeah.
said
There is a bit of an
no.
asterisk
Yeah,
because the Giants were never going to be able to trade up to three overall. Like
no,
they were
yeah,
never giving up that pick. However, I mean, it definitely, yeah, they should have. Like if they
no,
could have, they
no,
definitely
yeah,
should have.
and that goes to show like you need to listen to everyone, even the people who are younger than you. They're the ones watching the game as a fan, and I feel like
Hmm.
watching the game as a fan, you see things in a different light. You're not looking at analytics or how well can someone throw a ball. You're looking at play style. You're looking at how well someone can work in certain offenses, how well can someone lead a team.
Hmm.
Different from what scouts see. Hey, can he work well under pressure? Can he get out of the pocket in like zero point 0.5 seconds? Can he throw a ball 40 yards downfield with 2 seconds of air time? Like, you're not looking at the numbers like that. You're looking at, hey, this kid can play,
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
that's what his son was saying. Like, this kid can play. You may not see that. His numbers may not show it, but he's going to be a stud. And I mean, he took his
He was a stud,
team.
all right.
Yeah, he took his team to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was incredible. But I think, I think I like where the Giants are at better this year than last year for sure. I think
Yeah.
they don't feel like I don't know. They've been such a disaster for the last couple of years, but I think they are now in a place where they're not going to listen to that QB peer pressure necessarily, but are still open. And I hope, like, if the Titans take Cam Ward 1 overall, which I think is a lock, that means one of Hunter or Carter will be there for the Giants at 3. And I think those are the two blue chip cannot miss prospects in this draft. And there's a pretty big gap between them and everybody else. So if I'm the Giants, I'm happily sitting at 3 and taking whichever one of those two falls to me.
Yeah. So I guess my next question is, where do you think Travis Hunter will go definitively, and where do you think Shador Sanders is going to end?
So I think Hunter's 2. I think the Browns take Travis Hunter and use him kind of like exactly how he wants to be used. Like wide receiver, 80% of the snaps, corner, 80 to 90% of the snaps, and just let him do his thing. I think he's just too exciting of a prospect to pass up, even though the Browns are in shambles and don't have a quarterback right now. I think he's just too good to pass up. And then for Shador, I think he's going to fall. I think, again, there were talks of him as high as 2, at certain times this offseason in some mock drafts. But I see him falling, honestly, towards the middle of the first round. Maybe the Saints at 9, I think, is the earliest that I see anyone taking him. But I wouldn't be too surprised if he falls further than that. Um, and goes to there's not too many quarterback needy teams now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he falls towards the back end of the first draft, and then a team like the Browns trade way up into pick 20-ish and snag him there. But I don't know, I'm pretty low on Shador, and I think the league is starting to cool off a little bit on some of the Shador hype. I think as a prospect, there's just not too much there that excites. I think he could be a solid NFL quarterback, but I don't think he's a guy where you could project to be a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah. And yeah, I completely agree. I don't think the Shador hype, I mean, it was warranted, but I don't see him going in the top 10, maybe even top
Yeah,
15. I can
I
see
agree.
him going, lower than that. I don't think he falls out of the first round, though. I think he's still a first round talent. But
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, not a lot of teams need a quarterback anymore. They have their people. The Giants got theirs in Russell Wilson, um,
Hmm.
which kind of bummed about, honestly, because you signed Jameis Winston, and
I know.
I was really wanting to
Would have been
see.
crazy.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to
Jameis
see
would have
that.
given, I mean, he would have thrown a million picks, but I think Neighbors would have had like a 3,000-yard season with Winston at quarterback.
Oh
I think
yeah,
like
for
the two of
sure.
them would have literally, like, Neighbors would have had like 3,000 yards, like 70 touchdowns, and Winston would have another like 70 interceptions. It would have been very entertaining.
Yeah, and then oh my god, the snow games. Like
Oh my
he was gonna have
gosh.
so much fun. I mean, but Russell Wilson is gonna be the guy.
I think a smarter move for a franchise that wants a bridge for this year, right? Like I think it's probably a smarter move. And again, I am hoping, like, my ideal draft for the Giants is hopefully Travis Hunter with that third overall pick. But I'm assuming Carter. I'd be very happy either one of those guys at 3, and then the beginning of round 2, maybe even trade up a little bit if you have to. I would love a Jalen Milrow to just sit behind a couple of veteran quarterbacks for a year or two and let Dable kind of work his magic like he did with Josh Allen. And then all of a sudden, you can look forward to the future and be excited about this Giants team, or you still can't yet. But I think there's a world where I'm fired up about Giants football going into next season, and it's been a long time since I could say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, as a Niners fan, I'm excited to see what the Giants do. I think their future is bright, especially depending on how this draft goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
Staying on the topic of the draft, one name that kind of popped up, especially in the college football playoffs, is Cam Scatabo.
Oh yeah,
Where do you think he's gonna go? Some people are saying fourth round. Some people
yeah.
saying third.
I mean, the problem for him, unfortunately, is that this is just like such an incredible running back draft class. Like it's maybe the best ever between Gent. I mean, I think there's just a lot of guys who would like over him. Genty, Hampton. I think both Ohio State running backs, Henderson and Judkins. I have those four guys all ahead of Scatabo, and running back's a position where, besides Genty, I don't think you're going to see any of those guys in the first round, or you probably shouldn't, just where the position is valued right now. So, yeah, I have him. I think fourth round is probably a solid projection. Now, as a guy who loves ASU football, who went to a lot of ASU football games growing up, it was so much fun to watch him and then make a crazy run. I'm wishing the best for him, and I hope he goes higher than that. I think he can be a really, really good NFL running back. But yeah, I have him going in the middle of the late rounds.
Yeah, I heard some talks from 49ers fan pages that some people some fans want to see Cam get drafted to the 49ers. 49ers are in a weird situation though with running backs. They always seem to get injured. There's like
Mm,
a curse. So I don't know if I want that for Cam, especially since we already have our guys. We have McCaffrey coming back
mm,
pretty much full health. Asterisk. He might get re-aggravate something. We have Isaac Garendo, who did great, and Jordan Mason was outstanding. So we have our guys. So I don't know where Cam fits in that, but I mean, staying on the topic of the Niners, I just saw a report saying that they are taking calls about trading back from the 11th overall pick. Um, I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here. I have a lot of stats from
okay, I
previous
like it.
drafts. They have traded back from drafts a multitude of times. I'm going to list them now. 2017 draft, they traded back from second to third. They drafted Solomon Thomas with that pick, who didn't pan out well. But in
Yeah.
that same trade, they got the 70th overall pick in the 2018 draft, who turned out to be Fred Warner. They also drafted Kittle through a trade in the 2017 draft where they moved back a couple spots. They moved back from 143 to 146 in a trade. So they know how to pick them is what I'm trying to say. In the 2020 draft, they traded back from 13th to 14th and got Javon Kinlaw, no longer with the team, but did pretty well in his stint there in San Francisco. And they have also been known to trade up. The 2020 draft, they traded up to 26 from 34th and drafted Brandon Ayuk, who we all know now is the guy in the receiving corps after Debo Samuel requested a trade. Now with the Commanders, the 2021 draft, they traded up to third from 12th and got Trey Lance. We all know how that went. I'm not going to talk about him. Sayonara, good riddance. And one last thing to mention, the Niners have also helped a lot of teams when they have traded back or traded up. In the 2017 draft, they traded their 67th overall pick that they got from the Bears to draft Solomon Thomas to the Saints, who used that pick to draft Alvin Kamara. In the 2021 draft, they traded their 12th pick to Miami for the third pick. Miami used that pick to trade up to sixth and drafted Jalen Waddle. The 12th pick went to the Eagles, who traded it to the Cowboys for Micah Parsons. Cowboys drafted Micah Parsons. In the Miami trade with the Eagles received the 15th overall pick in 2022, traded it to the Texans for the 13th overall pick and drafted Jordan Davis.
Wow, that's some math.
And
That's
one last pick. There's one more. The Niners, in order to trade up to third to draft Trey Lance, they had to trade their 29th overall pick to Miami, which they later traded that pick, or the 29th overall pick in the 2022 draft. They traded that pick on draft day to get Bradley Chubb from the Broncos.
wow.
So,
I mean, I feel like you're at a board right now. With like
oh,
the red lines.
I'm
right?
pinpointing everything. Everything leads back to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
is what
I
I'm
mean,
trying
they
to say.
do love to make their moves, and most of them have panned. I mean, they've had a really good kind of late in the draft track record, right? I feel like their late round draft picks have been like better than anyone in the last few years, but then they've also made some pretty big misses, like you were saying. So kind of a weird scenario there. But personally, I don't mind them trading back from that 11 slot. I think there's a lot of similar talent kind of all in that area. So if you can get more value, I wouldn't be upset about it. But yeah, definitely a weird draft history for the Niners.
Yeah. I mean, because some of the times when they traded back, they got really good players. They found diamonds in the rough like George Kittle, Fred Warner. But then when they trade up, it seems like they do better when they trade back. Just looking at it, besides Solomon Thomas,
right?
But when they trade back, they got Fred Warner and George Kittle. When they trade up, they've got Brandon Ayuk, who's been good, but then they got Trey Lance.
Right. So I mean, that's the big stinker right there. That's the big one that hurts.
Yeah. So and then I don't know. I think the Niners are. I'm not even trying to be biased, but they are the team to watch in the draft because of how many trades they've made in the last few years and how those trades have panned out for other teams as well.
Definitely. I agree. So that's your big draft day, like surprise kind of thing. A Niners trade to shake things up. I like it.
Yeah, I think especially if they're trading the 11th overall pick for a win now piece or moving back because they know they can get a diamond in the rough. Because you don't have Debo anymore, who, I mean, you said, the Niners do great in drafting late. Debo was a second round pick, I believe. So not that late, but still a diamond in the rough. Yeah. The Niners, I forgot my thought.
That's fair.
I think I remember what I was going to say. The loss of Debo, win now pieces. They all they have is Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall had a great rookie season after coming back from being shot. Congrats to you on making a full recovery, Ricky Pearsall. If you're listening, probably not, but shout out. Him and Ayuk. I mean, who else do you have? Christian McCaffrey can go out and run routes. George Kittle can go out and do the same. But who's your slot?
Need another wide receiver.
You have Juwan Jennings, but the 49ers fans love to call him third and Juwan because he always seems to get a third and long reception for a first down. So he's really like that third down receiver. He's not a definitive starting slot.
Yeah. No, I could definitely go and say it is a weak wide receiver class, I will say, but it doesn't mean that there aren't interesting prospects out there. I could definitely see the 49ers ending up with a wide receiver.
Well, I think that is going to do it for today's episode of Beyond the Sideline. I want to make quick note that this is now officially the longest episode.
Wow.
Of Beyond the Sideline.
Look at that. We're just yapping like crazy.
I told you that I wanted to keep
totally
this somewhat
ruined
short.
Your studying, I know.
I wanted to keep it short, but I know, knowing me, I'm going to make it long. And of course, it's the longest episode today at almost 1 hour and 10 minutes. We just crossed the 1 hour and 9 minute mark. So, I mean, congrats to us, I guess.
There you go.
Episode 9 is one for the books. Episode 10 coming next week. This episode will air Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, I hope you all have had fun enjoying the draft so far, because as this airs, The second day of the draft, rounds 2 and 3, will be underway within a few hours after this goes live. Hopefully, the Niners did well. Hopefully, the Giants drafted well. Maybe the Giants draft up. They trade up to
Could
get
happen.
Travis Hunter. I mean,
I could. Oof, that'd be
we'll
crazy.
see what happens, but that will be all for us here at the Beyond the Sideline family. Hope you all had a great time listening in. It's always a fun time. Jake, thank you once again for being on.
Of course. Love it.
And we hope to see you all for the next episode next week for episode 10